Hey neighbors, tax season is almost here, and you can help others prepare through United Way's VITA program. VITA is recruiting volunteers to help provide free, high-quality tax preparation to low to moderate income families, helping them maximize their refunds and save on filing fees. No experience is necessary and training is provided. Learn more at volunteerforvita.org. Today on CityCast Nashville, it's time for our Friday News Roundup. And yes, normally we'd have a guest join us, but not today. Today, it's just you, me, and our executive producer, Whitney Pasterek. Together, we dive into the fact that Nashville had a lot going on this week. Morgan Wallen is back in the spotlight. His felony charges for his chair-throwing incident have been reduced to 2 misdemeanor counts, and his bar's controversial sign is up for debate at Metro Council again next Tuesday, December 17th. Whitney gives us an eloquent breakdown of Metro Art's new funding plan for this fiscal year, and we'll discuss why some Republicans are calling Tennessee a pretty good state, and why Where the Crawdads Sing, among other books, is being banned in Williamson County school libraries. And hey, stay tuned for our Tecovas Don't Go Gently tip for this weekend at the end of the show. It's Friday, December 13th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Whitney!
Marie!
We're alone.
It's so quiet.
I know, no guess. We just needed some more bonding time.
That's true. That's absolutely true. We don't spend enough time together.
That's right. And I have done some investigative journalism this week that I am very happy to report.
What? Tell us. What is it?
Dun, 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 dun. Gus's world-famous fried chicken that recently opened is absolutely incredible fried chicken. I got a 12-piece for some friends, and not just for me.
It's fine. You don't have to justify it. This is a judgment-free zone.
But it was pretty amazing. The person that was checking me out just said, like, just so you know, it's not Nashville hot chicken, because it does say hot and spicy. So I like that she clarified. But it was sweet and spicy and perfectly crisp. And it came in a brown bag. And I got the macaroni and cheese. And let me tell y'all, excellent. So please go check it out. There wasn't that many people in there. And I asked, like, have y'all been busy? She said they have their good days and bad days. So I do really want to support this new business because it was absolutely excellent.
And that's over there on Dickerson?
That's right, on Dickerson.
And
it has a big yellow sign. And the pie was awesome.
Oh, you had yourself a night.
I had some friends over for some fried chicken. It was excellent. Yeah.
Good for you.
Happy holidays.
Well, happy holidays. And it was a really newsy week, actually. There's a lot to dive into. We're not even going to talk about things like TSU's interim president resigning out of nowhere as part of the ongoing controversies that are happening over there. The university is kind of in some financial disarray, primarily due to the fact that the state of Tennessee reportedly owes them $2 billion.
Just a cool $2 billion.
Could be contributing to the financial disarray. We also want to note and tell people that they should go over to WPLN.org and read about the fact that a cemetery for the people who were enslaved by Andrew Jackson at the Hermitage has been uncovered. They found these graves like less than 1,000 feet away from the mansion that have been there this whole time, and no one bothered to look for them before. So there's more controversy happening at one of our local plantations, and we encourage folks to go read that story as well because it's really interesting. More importantly, there's pop culture news we want to dive into straight away.
I do love me some pop culture news. Let's talk about Morgan Wallen.
Oh, we'd love to talk about Morgan Wallen. What's happening with him?
Well, Morgan Wallen seems to be Nashville's golden child because the CMA Awards Entertainer of the Year saw his 3 felony charges for throwing a chair off a downtown bar reduced to misdemeanors prior to yesterday's hearing, where the platinum-selling artist pleaded guilty.
Oh, no.
Wait for it. He's been given 2 years probation and must spend 7 days in a DUI education center.
7 days?
At a DUI education center.
At a DUI education center?
He's also been given a whopping $350 fine for almost killing 2 police officers with said chair. Whitney, thoughts on the matter?
I feel that it's safe to say, Marie, that if you or I were to get blindly drunk and toss a chair off the roof of Eric Church's bar, Chiefs, that landed immediately adjacent to two Metro Nashville police officers and could have potentially severely harmed them, I don't know that you and I would be spending 7 days in a DUI education center. I don't know that for a fact.
Right?
We're cute.
I can talk my way out of anything, especially a chair throwing contest.
Yeah, but we are not the CMA Awards Entertainer of the Year platinum selling
No.
famous guy. What do you think?
I'm scared now to go downtown because of flying chairs.
It's true. It's really ruined it for all of us. Well, there's no word yet on when Morgan Wallen will need to report to the center, but hopefully he will still be out on Tuesday. And we want to remind people that Tuesday at Metro Council, you might want to tune in because the sign for his creatively named Broadway honky tonk, Morgan Wallen's This Bar that opened this summer is coming back for consideration.
Why is it under consideration? Can you remind our listeners why the sign needs to seek approval from the Metro Council?
Sure. The short answer is in case it falls down and kills somebody.
Ah.
So the aerial encroachments are the signs that jut off the buildings, right? They hang over the public right of way. So the Kid Rock's big ass STD palace and colostomy bag swinging steakhouse, that big sign with the donkey and butt on it is that's an aerial encroachment, right? So
so that was passed.
Yes, we were fine with the giant butt sign, apparently. Okay. But that's a public safety concern. It failed on the previous reading because people had some quibbles for obvious reasons with Morgan Wallen's personal character. Delicia Porterfield, council member at large, said, I don't want to see a billboard up with the name of a person who's throwing chairs off of balconies and who is saying racial slurs. And that sentiment was echoed by a number of council members, and the original application for an aerial encroachment was denied. However, as much as it pains us to admit it, there's some pretty obvious First Amendment rights going on there. And I would expect that the discussion will be spicy, but it's just another reason why, as our contributor Nicole Williams likes to remind us, Metro Council is the hottest show in town. So it could be a banger of a meeting again.
I'll be sure to tune in. Next story. Bing, bing.
Bing, bing. Great transition, Marie.
I love it. Good segue.
We're still so good at this.
We're awesome at it. I'm wearing my pajamas. All right. After months of delay, Metro Arts finally has a plan for how it will hand out grant funding for the current fiscal year.
Woo.
Whitney, I have been so confused around this whole thing. And I know some of the independent artists and the organizations who have been promised this funding, they've also been confused as well. You know, in theory, I think funding for the arts in Nashville should be a very big priority in this town.
Agree.
Every year, a certain amount of the city's annual budget is set aside for Metro Arts to be distributed to legacy arts organizations like Nashville Ballet, shout out, and independent artists and their organizations. Whitney, could you please break it down for us? What happened in the last year and a half that disrupted this flow of necessary funding to those in need?
All right. Whitney's going to try to explain this in a very concise way. This is the TLDR Cliff Notes version. If you want to read more, please Google it. I really encourage you to try to understand. But the short version is, in the summer of 2023, Metro Arts approved a funding mechanism that would have more equitably distributed their grant funding. It's two different kinds of awards that Metro Arts gives out. It's general operating grants. Those go to those larger organizations, the ballet, the opera, the symphony, the FRIS, TPAC, and they're to help them with their general operating costs, right? Then there's also Thrive Awards, and these awards are designed to go to independent artists and organizations who maybe do not have 501c3 status, maybe are just a single person applying for a grant to do an art project or teach kids how to play the mandolin Wallen, whatever it is. It's
How Nashville.
Yes, it's Nashville. So those are the two pools of money. In the summer of 2023, after a lot of community engagement work by the former Metro Arts director, Daniel Singh, Metro Arts Commission approved this new grant funding structure that would have been considerably more equitable. And due to all of the artists that had applied, Metro Council had actually allocated an extra $2 million for them to receive that funding. So that happened in July. In August, the Metro Arts Commission reconvened, and after Metro Legal told them that what they had done might have been illegal, they voted to go back to a previous and less equitable funding mechanism. So the short version of what happened there was so many of these independent artists and arts organizations are led by people of color, people from marginalized communities, basically not just rich white people. And what happened after or close to that July meeting was the Supreme Court had just overturned affirmative action, and Metro Legal got all concerned that somehow making our arts funding in Nashville more equitable equaled affirmative action. And it's still unclear to me how that argument carried any water, but it was also reported at the time that possibly some of the pushback was coming from the legacy arts organizations who were worried that they weren't going to continue to get their dependable amount of money because it was being shifted more equitably into the other pool. So Metro Legal came back to the Metro Arts Commission, said, what you did might get us sued by the federal government. And so they rescinded that funding and everything caught on fire. So Daniel Singh, former director of Metro Arts, was essentially forced to resign. That was a whole long thing I'm not going to go into. A group of artists who had been in the Thrive pool and saw their funding either reduced or disappear filed a complaint, a Title VI discrimination complaint against Metro Arts and Metro Legal for what they saw was a violation of their Title VI rights as people of color, marginalized communities. They filed that with the Metro Human Relations Commission, on which I am a commissioner. I was not a commissioner at the time, but I do currently sit on that commission. Metro Human Relations Commission did a report and basically found in the wake of this complaint that, yes, Metro Arts had violated the Title VI rights of these artists, and they ended up negotiating a conciliation agreement, which I did vote on because by that time I was on the commission, that said, we now have to pay these artists what they were supposed to get before the funding had been rescinded. Did all of that make anything close to sense, Marie?
Absolutely. No, that makes total sense. I could see why people would be really upset if they were promised funding and then they did not receive it. Right. And then they sued.
Well, it wasn't technically a suit. It was a complaint. They complained in a very formal way.
Oh, okay.
And I want to also note that the folks at Metro Arts were also frustrated and confused because they had spent a lot of time on this new funding mechanism. And the commissioners had spent a lot of time considering the new funding mechanism. But when Metro Legal says you might get us sued by the federal government because of something the Supreme Court ruled about colleges, you can see where people were confused. So trying to make it short, basically, there has been nothing but back and forth and confusion and anger and annoyance. And the staff at Metro Arts has been a little slow to communicate with the artists, as we heard on the podcast this week from Sarah Aitenhan, who's the president of Satellite Dance. You know, she said that she was encouraged to apply for a grant and then basically got ghosted. That just fell off the face of the earth. So the fact that now we are finally, on December 13th, 2024, we finally have the idea of how we might distribute grants for fiscal year 2025, which is in just a few days.
Right.
This plan still has to go to council for approval. The grants that have been sitting there for months still have to be scored. And even though this current plan includes a lot of the aspects of the plan that Director Singh and Metro Arts had put together a year and a half ago, it is still very frustrating to the independent artists who are frustrated that, number one, the funding this year, which will be less, they're not going to have that $2 million bonus from Metro Council. So they're working with a little over $3 million in funding. That's going to be split 60-40 in favor of the general operating grants to these legacy institutions. And then the artists, the independent artists, are also frustrated that all of a sudden now they have to have a fiscal sponsor to manage their grants. So if they are not a 501c3 nonprofit organization, they need to enlist the help of one in order to receive their funding because guess who? Metro Legal has now said that giving awards directly to artists is illegal under state law. All of a sudden, it's been happening for over a decade, but all of a sudden now that's illegal, says Metro Legal. But right now, I just want to point out that Metro Arts is currently paying like $500,000 directly to an individual artist who lives in Detroit to paint a mural. It's still chaos. The saga continues. I do want to note, wrapping up, I promised this would be short and it wasn't, but wrapping up, I do want to note that since Metro Arts was funded in 1987, almost 70% of all the funds allocated have gone to these larger organizations. I continue to feel a great deal of sympathy and empathy for the smaller artists and arts organizations who, you might think, oh, what's $5,000? Well, it is the difference between them being able to do their art and not do their art. And these folks have been sitting on a shelf all this time. But I also want to commend the Metro Arts Commissioners for fighting through this and trying to come up with what seems like a solution that, I hate a happy medium, but I mean, it's better than it could have been, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I just thank everybody who has stuck with this to make sure we're getting this right. Because to echo what you said like 20 minutes ago, Marie, in theory, funding the arts in Nashville should be a priority. And we are so far behind peer cities, like you heard in our podcast on Monday, peer cities like Austin, like Charlotte, who do such a better job of getting money out to their arts community. And we're literally Music City.
Right.
So if somebody could help me make this make sense, that would be great.
Well, you did a very good job trying to make it make sense. So I applaud you, Whitney. Thank you for breaking it down. I appreciate you. On to the next story. Bing, bing, bing. I love.
She's not even trying on the segues. It's the end of the year. This is our second to last Friday news roundup of 2024. And the woman is not even trying.
All right. Trump's border czar, quote, I'm going to say border czar, in quotation. You can't hear it, folks, but I'm doing the quotations with my hands.
Incoming quote unquote border czar.
Yes. Tom Homan.
Sure.
Tom Homan appeared at an event in Franklin on Wednesday that was hosted by the Reagan Society, where he told horrific stories of murder and child trafficking as a way to get the conservative attendees on board with Trump's plan for mass deportation. He had a similar meeting in Illinois on Monday night, where he threatened to prosecute Chicago's mayor if he stood in the way of future deportations. But in Franklin, he did not make any threats against any mayors. In fact, he called Tennessee a pretty good state.
Aw.
Whitney, yes. I'm curious, what do you think? Why is he saying Tennessee is doing a good job? What makes Mr. Homan so proud of us?
Well, I want to thank Mr. Homan, Czar Homan, for giving us that nice pat on the head. We are a pretty good state. Two things happened this week that might be pleasing him. First, the Williamson County School Board removed/restricted 5 books on Monday. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. That was removed entirely. Field Guide to the American Teenager by Ben Philippe was restricted to juniors and seniors only. Speak by Lori Haltz Anderson was restricted only to high school students. Where the Crawdads Sing by Della Owens was removed from schools, as was The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. The move comes due to a state law that went into effect in July, the quote-unquote Age Appropriate Materials Act of 2022, which mandated that all materials in school libraries had to be, quote, so much air quoting in this segment, had to be, quote, suitable for age and maturity levels of the students who may access the materials and must be suitable for and consistent with the educational mission of the school. Wilson County School Libraries removed hundreds of titles due to the law earlier this year, and Perks of Being a Wallflower has already been yeeted from Rutherford County schools. In September, the Tennessee Association of Librarians found more than 1,100 books have been taken off our library shelves since HB 843 went into effect.
What a bummer.
Some of those are
a downer.
Really good books. I'll say something that stood out to me was in going back and watching some of the hearing, the number of people who stood up and said that Speak specifically had really helped them through tragic events in their lives. And obviously Where the Crawdads Sing, Reese Witherspoon's fave,
Yeah. Why wasn't Reese there advocating to keep this one on the bookshelves?
I think that's a very good question. And, extremely loud and incredibly close. Actually, somebody in the crowd, somebody in the audience stood up and called out, I know it's a Tom Hanks movie, but I don't care. It's still bad. And I haven't read that book since, 2003 or whenever the hell it came out. I don't remember anything in that. It's like, I feel like the common theme throughout these books is like children having agency. Intelligent children.
Interesting. I just love the woman sitting there that banned books make them more popular.
Yeah.
She had a sign that said that. And that is true. I think if I was a teenager now and all these books were being banned from my school library, I would double down and read all of them.
Yeah. The internet still exists.
Yes.
Folks, at least temporarily.
Right. And if I was a parent of a teenager, I would be like, here, read Perks of Being a Wallflower, and then we'll watch the movie together because it's amazing.
Yeah. And I'll just point out to everybody listening at home, and if anyone down there in Williamson County is listening, the Nashville Public Library is free and has all these books. And I'm pretty sure you can access a lot of them online. So,
and they validate parking.
Yep. Wonderful resource, the library.
Yes.
So that's one thing. There's one other reason why perhaps Republicans are happy with Tennessee this month, as I think they always are. Again, we're a pretty good state. Hemp products are also being banned under a new rule set to go into effect on December 26th. The rule requires all hemp products to be tested for THCA, which occurs naturally in hemp plants and is still legal. But unfortunately, it converts to THC sans A when heated or smoked, and THC is illegal in the state of Tennessee. Hemp growers have filed a lawsuit to stop the new rule from going into effect because it would destroy their industry, which currently generates between $280 and $560 million in sales every year. And, Tennessee is an extraordinarily pro-business state. We're a low corporate tax environment. We don't have any state income tax. It's a great place to come and start and grow your business, unless your business is something that Republicans don't like, in which case, apparently, the free market does not apply to you.
Right. When I was getting my haircut the other day, my hairdresser was saying that her friend's kid just opened, he's mid-20s.
How old is anybody now?
They're all so young. But, mid-20s, just opened up his own business, a hemp store. And now it was like all of his life savings. Yeah, it's a 25-year-old, but opened up his own business. And now he may have to shut down because of this new law. So,
well, I wonder what's going to happen to all of the vape hemp smoke shops that have replaced all the hair worlds around town, because they're clearly there as like a real estate play to make sure that they've got a toehold if and when Tennessee does in fact legalize marijuana, which we should do because it would raise a lot of money for things we need like roads and schools. But I wonder how that's going to impact those businesses. They're not going to be able to get by just selling those like plastic vape thingies.
Right.
You know the ones I'm talking about that are like cherry limeade?
I prefer pina colada.
Fair. Totes fair. Anyway, a couple things just to keep your eye on. Will they get the injunction they need to stop this rule from going into effect? And what will it do to our light up neon storefronts all around the city?
I just think it's a bummer right after Christmas, December 26th.
I know. Ho, ho, ho.
Anyway.
Let's go out on a positive note. We always try to go out on a positive note.
Yes. Let's talk about sports.
You love sports. I'm going to make you do this whole segment because of how much you love sports.
I do. I like to go to live sporting events. I will say that. And I do enjoy making my 7-layer dip for the Super Bowl.
Oh, I'm coming over. I love a 7-layer dip.
So finally, we're going to end with congrats to Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee, who took the Commodores to their first bowl game since 2018.
Woo!
They'll play in the Birmingham Bowl December 27th against Georgia Tech. He's been named, this is so exciting, SEC Coach of the Year after a huge season in which Vandy beat Alabama and Auburn and threw one goalpost into the river. Woo! I was downtown for that. It was crazy.
And I want to shout out quarterback Diego Pavia, who was also named the first ever SEC newcomer of the year. It's the first time in about 15 years that anybody from Vanderbilt football received honors like these. So that's fantastic. But I do want to say the Good Times might not last. Pavia is currently awaiting the results of a lawsuit he's filed against the NCAA. He's trying to get another year of eligibility after playing 2 seasons at a junior college and another 2 at New Mexico State. I think you get 5 years. Again, this is where my sports knowledge breaks down, but I think you get to play 5 years if you were like redshirted one of them or something. So this would have been his last year of eligibility, but he's suing, claiming that he wasn't able to monetize his likeness at the junior college under these new rules, where college athletes can finally make money.
Right.
And so he'd like another season, and I'm sure Vanderbilt fans would love for him to get another season as well. There was a ruling last week that seemed to narrow his path to that. So he may be done. That's okay. You can still cheer on your Anchor people on December 27th. Go Anchor people.
Go Anchor people. Well, I want to close this out by just wishing Miss Taylor Allison Swift a very happy birthday this December 13th.
Lord. That's today, isn't it?
That is today.
Wow.
And she's a Nashvilleian.
We almost made it through one entire podcast without you mentioning Miss Taylor Allison Swift.
I know. Well, happy birthday, girl.
Happy birthday, Tay.
And now it's time for your Tecovas Don't Go Gently tip for this weekend. Nashville's favorite record store, Grimey's, is celebrating its 25th anniversary this Saturday at the Basement East with a holiday-themed bash. It's got a banger lineup of musicians, Old Crow Medicine Show's Catch Secor, Langhorne Slim, Robin Hitchcock, and rumor has it, Santa plans to make an appearance too. Feel free to bring your kids to this family-friendly event. Doors open at 6:30 p.m., and all proceeds will benefit TransAid Nashville. Remember, y'all, don't go gently, go into Tecovas. That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. Our executive producer is Whitney Pasternak. Our producer is Zoe Colkin. Our Hey Nashville newsletter editor is Margaret Kingsbury, and our theme music is by Prof Jenkins. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!